Policies are written, laws are passed, rights are protected.
But how are they understood? How are they lived? And how do they translate into the realities of Rwandan citizens?
I am Epi Munyana Ngosi.
I'm Paula Yvette Chuzuzo. Epi, you have just told us big words now. Can you explain to us what a policy is, what is a rule, and what is a law?
In my understanding, a policy can be a decision or plan, and it can also be made by a government, by an institution. So usually the intent behind a policy is usually to show what's going to be done and how does that said institution intend how to do this. So usually you'll find policies affecting areas of life in who qualifies for services. Now, when we come to the law, a law is usually a rule. First of all, the biggest difference I think we have to note with these two is that laws are legally binding, while policies may or may not. So a law is a rule that's formally enacted and enforced by the government. So this can be pertaining to your rights and responsibilities as a citizen. It can be pertaining to duties of a certain sector in the government. Now, when we come to rights are usually protections and entitlements any citizen, any human is entitled to. So usually this is a right to privacy, we have a right to life, and we have a right to protection,
That difference is really interesting because I can also tell from my work experience that we interact with policies. We see ministries, they release different policies. We have decentralization, agriculture, education policy. And then we also get to see laws, which we're used to, like most of Rwandans know traffic laws, do's and don'ts. And we also know our rules.
Yes.
But why do we need to know those differences? Why should every Rwandan know what a policy is, how to differentiate it with the law, for instance?
And I think one of the main important reasons why we should even know the difference between any policy, any law, any rule whatsoever is usually because these things are the backbones of society. So that means they shape everyday life. So when you see your rent is going up, your access to healthcare is denied, why do you think these people have the right to deny you this? These people have the right to increase such prices. So you find that these are the things that shape everyday life. And you need to know, if you're a responsible citizen, if you're an active citizen, you need to know these things so that you can engage meaningfully. You can participate. You can have a say. You can also, when you do participate, you can hold yourself accountable, the government accountable, and the society as a whole. And I think for me, in this context, ignorance is not bliss.
And speaking about ignorance, I feel like we should not leave any of these three behind.
100%.
I feel like we should start with knowing policies because they're guiding documents, as you said, and they're the ones that we can even base on to know where we're lagging behind, to hold different people accountable. Because if we know one thing and we don't know the other, then we're missing a piece to the puzzle.
100%. And actually, Paula, you make a very good point, but from my understanding, I think this information, as much as we need people to know, you find that most people don't even know these things exist. I wonder, how do you know about policies? How do you know about laws? Because you mentioned the traffic law, and I don't assume that everyone knows there's a new draft law circulating.
I can say that I get to have access to that information because of the work setting that I'm in. We mainly do advocacy. We should really be informed about everything that's going on. Of course, we talk about gaps or areas for improvement. And we use that as evidence to engage the government and be like, this is where gaps are, this is where you should intervene, so that we can collaborate effectively for the socio-economic transformation that the country wants. And I can also say that we don't only focus on gaps, we also commend efforts. We talk about the policy reforms that we're seeing, and we're glad that the advocacy that we've done is yielding.
That's good. I think that's also a privilege. I think we can say being employed and working in areas like that. But do you think, what of the layman that is unemployed? What of the layman doesn't have, who are working in different sectors, who doesn't have to deal with these laws put in their place? Because it's a different thing to work towards things like that, but also what if you're in another sector?
Okay, I can't say unfortunately, but like the background of all of us, the education system, we were not exposed to policies, to that information. And if I can be honest, Gen Zs, we don't like to follow news on television, for instance. We're mainly interested on like with just social media trends, what's going on. As a Gen Z, sometimes you tend to think we're not interested in policies, laws. Then how are you going to know how are you going to predict the future of your business, the future of your job, the future of your development? So it is about informing and knowing the context in which you operate in. So, and to add on, I know that it's like our generation really wants a different source of, getting information, and that is where we really need to look for that space, that youth-friendly way of bringing policies, laws and rules to the youth.
And
how
translating it.
How can we speak
their language 100%, so that these policies, laws, and whatever we are saying doesn't feel abstract. It feels something like I can look up and I'm like, so when Paula said this and this and this, when I saw this in the news, this is what it translated to.
And also, I think another interesting factor or aspect I've realized is we're talking about the youth and social media, but what about those rural citizens who do not have access to social media platforms? They also need to know about those laws, rules, and policies. So we should not leave them behind. We should make sure that we bring those documents to them in a way that they can understand, because they also speak their own language.
100%.
And
100%.
Sometimes when I go to the field, I also get to see that there is a way we can make sure that we simplify those documents. We make sure that the local leaders are able to understand them and to try to be innovative. We are in an evolving era. We need to be creative and innovative and be like, what are some homegrown solutions we can bring to the local communities so that every citizen can be able to know what's happening at the central level in agriculture, what should be aiming for. So,
and I think, that's a good thing. And I think also beyond policies, rules, and laws, I think also we also need platforms. We also need platforms where people can discuss civic issues, because we risk... the whole mantra and point behind why policies are there, why laws, because there's existing civic issues. So I think there's need for more platforms that address all this on a larger scale.
Effie, before we get into those platforms, please tell me what is at stake. Why should we have those platforms? What are we losing in case we don't have those platforms?
So I think the biggest thing we are losing. Let me approach it from my generation's point of view. We risk being misinformed, and when you're misinformed, it opens a Pandora of so many issues in society. So as you've seen, 60% of the population is youth. We cannot afford not to know. We are the biggest drivers of the nation. When you look at developmental agendas in the country, there's a Vision 2050, there's the NS2. We are basically the engine of the country. So if you don't know how to shape society, if you do not know where society is going, then you have no future. That's anarchy for you. That's anarchy for you, and we cannot afford that. A country, a young country like ours, a very promising nation, we cannot afford to be misinformed.
And also one other factor that I can add on what you just said is the government has really done. We commend the government's efforts, we always read on Twitter and everywhere. We really commend the government's efforts in everything they've done, the development we've achieved. But then when we look at, for instance, Vision 2050. Youth, young people are the ones that are going to realize Vision 2050.
100%.
And so if you don't know what is in Vision 2050, then what are you going to realize?
100%.
We're always told we're the leaders of today and the leaders of tomorrow.
And you cannot afford to be a passive citizen. I'm telling you, you have to be active in your future. And I think we need to be active citizens.
I feel like every citizen should really feel concerned. Because even though you're not interested in any of this,
it affects you.
As long as you're in Rwanda, everything that happens, they will come down to that. It will affect you in one way or another. And if we are to be affected, then why can't we take part in that, in decision making?
Do you think there are proper channels for that?
I think there are limited channels. I think we have an opportunity to
Yes.
create more channels for such conversations.
Welcome to the Igitekerezo podcast, a youth-led civic dialogue series where Rwanda's policies, laws, human rights frameworks, and even civic issues are explored through the real-life experiences of everyday citizens.
This is a space where every voice counts, where questions are welcomed, and where shared understanding becomes collective power.
Come speak.
Come listen. And come think with us. You do not want to miss out.
Join in on the conversation every Thursday at 10 a.m.